An atmosphere of tension is rising in the East Asia region. Diplomatic tensions are ongoing between Japan and China, the two major powers of East Asia. Remarks made by Japan's new leader have revived their old rivalry. Recently, Sanae Takaichi became Japan's first female prime minister. As soon as she came to power, diplomatic tensions with China began. The reason is a controversial remark by Sanae Takaichi that made China extremely angry. By commenting on Taiwan, Takaichi crossed China's red line. The essence of Takaichi's controversial statement was that if China imposes any naval blockade against Taiwan or takes any kind of aggressive action, then Japan will give a military response. A military response from Japan in the China-Taiwan conflict is not an ordinary statement. It is directly touching China's most sensitive point. Taiwan is not very far from Japan. Taiwan is a small island that lies around 100-110 kilometers away from Japanese territory. Taiwan's security is important for Japan because the sea routes around Taiwan are Japan's trade lifeline. If there is instability in the waters around Taiwan, it will impact Japan's trade. Therefore, Sanae Takaichi said that if there is an attack on Taiwan, Japan will perceive it as an existential threat and will give a military response. Now things become even more complicated because Japan is an ally of the US. Where is America's largest military contingent outside American soil? It is in Japan. So this makes the situation even more complicated. Japan will not want any war to break out around Taiwan, because as we discussed, it will immediately impact Japan. So the statement made by the Japanese Prime Minister was for self-defense. But China is viewing it as warmongering. China is seeing it as crossing a red line. Therefore, a very angry response has come from China. As soon as Japan spoke about armed intervention, China immediately condemned it. China called out Japan's aggression and gave a clear warning that China has the right to self-defense under the UN Charter, and China will definitely exercise this right. China will defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. As we know, China is extremely sensitive regarding Taiwan. China considers Taiwan as its own part, which it will reunify sooner or later. Therefore, whenever any country comments on Taiwan, China sees it as an attack on its sovereignty and territorial integrity and reacts very emotionally. Now that Japan has made this statement that if there is an attack on Taiwan, it will intervene militarily, China has alleged that there is a resurgence of Japanese militarism. And China has even appealed to the entire world that we must prevent Japan at any cost from returning to the path of militarism. China has been a victim of Japan's militarism. China has many painful memories associated with Japanese aggression. China and Japan have been rivals for decades. In the past, China has suffered from Japan's brutality. Just go and check out Nanjing Massacre of 1937. You will be shocked. The bitter memories of the mass executions and horrific violence that took place at that time are still fresh in China's mind. China says that Japan has not even properly apologized for those past atrocities till today. Because of these past atrocities committed by Japan, anti-Japan sentiment is very strong within China. In such a situation, the Taiwan remark made by Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi has worked like adding fuel to fire. It has further intensified the tensions. It has revived the old rivalries. China anyway does not like Sanae Takaichi, because before becoming Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi had been a vocal critic of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Takaichi has spoken against China's militarization in the South China Sea. She has raised her voice against China's human rights abuses, and she has even visited Taiwan to show support for Taiwan and its leaders. All this is not liked by China at all. So China already does not view Takaichi positively. In such a situation, Takaichi's remark about Taiwan has made China extremely angry. Sanae Takaichi belongs to the Liberal Democratic Party. At one time, this party used to have back-channel connections with China, because one of the coalition partners of the Liberal Democratic Party was Komeito, which acted as a bridge between China and Japan. But there was a fallout between Takaichi's party, the Liberal Democratic Party, and its coalition partner Komeito. This caused the back-channel connections that the Liberal Democratic Party had with China to collapse. And in such a situation, when tensions between Japan and China are rising, the collapse of these back-channel connections is not a positive signal. This will prevent the tensions from being diffused. You can understand the level to which diplomatic tensions have reached by the fact that Japan has issued a safety advisory for its citizens living in China. The Japanese citizens who are currently in China have been told by Japan that they should not go to crowded areas. They should always remain alert. They should respect local Chinese customs. They should be careful while speaking or interacting with Chinese people. They should not travel alone. Such a safety advisory has to be issued because the tensions between the two countries have increased greatly. Japan is issuing advisories like, if children are with you, be extra cautious. If you see any suspicious group, avoid them completely. In short, if you are living in China, be very careful. The Japanese embassy has informed its citizens about the deteriorating public sentiment inside China. They have warned them. Now, when Japan has done all this, China was not going to remain silent. China has told its citizens not to travel to Japan. Chinese students studying in Japan have been given safety warnings. Film distributors inside China are suspending Japanese movies. They do not want to hurt the sentiments of the domestic audience, as their business would be affected. This shows how negative the Japanese sentiment has become in China at the moment. And China did not stop here. To send a strong message to Japan, China sent its Coast Guard ships near the Senkaku Islands. The Senkaku Islands are a group of islands controlled by Japan, but China claims them. Japan calls these islands Senkaku. China calls them Diaoyu. As far as America is concerned, it does not officially recognize Japan's sovereignty over the Senkaku Islands. However, the United States has made one thing very clear. If Japan is attacked, or if any of Japan's claimed territories are attacked, then it is America's obligation to defend Japan, because the US has signed a security treaty with Japan. Therefore, the United States says that it will defend Japan. America is fully committed to defending Japan. And when it comes to defending Japan, the Senkaku Islands are included in that. So you can see how high the risk of escalation is here. A small miscalculation could lead to two nuclear powers clashing with each other. And for now, due to the tensions, China has only retaliated diplomatically and flexed its muscles around the Senkaku Islands. China has not yet used its deadly weapon, which is economic coercion. Economic pressure from China has not yet started. There have been no export restrictions from China so far, whether it is on rare earths or critical minerals. If diplomacy fails, we may see this as well. China has such a track record of economic coercion, so it is only a matter of time. China can impose economic pressure on Japan at any moment. We have already seen how China told its citizens to halt their plans to travel to Japan. This will cause tourism in Japan to decline. China has also hinted that it will restrict the imports of Japanese seafood. This will be a further economic blow to Japan. You can understand the level of tensions between the two countries from the fact that during the 2025 G20 summit held in South Africa, there was no meeting between Japan and China. This shows the deteriorating relations between Japan and China. Chinese President Xi Jinping also called US President Donald Trump. He clearly conveyed that Taiwan is a red line that must not be crossed. Xi Jinping reminded Trump that Taiwan has to be reunified with mainland China. This is an integral part of the post-war international order. Xi Jinping has given this statement very deliberately. This is not a random line. Xi Jinping reminded Trump how China and the US had fought side by side in World War II. They fought together against fascism and militarism. So according to him, after that victory, Taiwan's reunification is an essential part of the resulting post-war order. In this way, Xi Jinping has very cleverly positioned Taiwan. Xi Jinping did not project Taiwan as a modern geopolitical disagreement. He projected it as the unfinished business of an old victory, a victory in which China and the US fought together. Xi Jinping did not call Trump randomly. He called to convey that Taiwan's reunification with China is an inevitable outcome. This is something that must happen. In this manner, Xi Jinping shifted the entire Taiwan debate. He shifted it from modern geopolitics to historical morality. What is America's stance? America does not take any official position on Taiwan's sovereignty. America only says that the status quo should not change. No force should be used. America supplies weapons to Taiwan so that Taiwan can defend itself. Officially, however, the US has no diplomatic ties with Taiwan. This US policy is called strategic ambiguity. It means the policy is not clear. It is ambiguous regarding Taiwan. As far as Trump is concerned, the Trump administration has not given any official statement on whether the US will militarily defend Taiwan if a war breaks out. So the US has maintained ambiguity over whether it will intervene militarily or not. Recently, the US approved an arms package worth $330 million for Taiwan. This includes spare parts for Taiwan's fighter jets. China became extremely angry about this. According to China, the US has violated the One China principle. Officially, the US adheres to the One China principle and does not recognize Taiwan as an independent country. But to counter China, the US keeps supplying defense equipment to Taiwan. This greatly irritates China. Keeping all of this in mind, Takaichi's remark on Taiwan, the US remark that it will defend Japan, and America announcing a defense package for Taiwan, all of this made Xi Jinping call Trump. Jinping wanted to convey that Taiwan's red line must not be crossed. All this once again shows how the Indo-Pacific is becoming the most sensitive geopolitical fault line of today's era. After speaking with Xi Jinping, Trump also spoke with Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi. He briefed her on the entire conversation with Xi Jinping. He reaffirmed America's support for Japan and said that Japan is not alone. The US is committed to Japan's security. This is how diplomatic tensions between Japan and China are deepening. This is a major test for Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, how she will defuse this crisis and how she will de-escalate tensions with China. Because under no circumstances can she appear weak in front of the Japanese public. This is why she did not retract her statements on Taiwan, despite China's anger, because that would have hurt her politically. But this also increases the risk of economic coercion from China, which could hurt Japan's economy. Takaichi has to consider this as well. Due to this, you may have noticed that Takaichi made a statement saying that in the future she will avoid making specific comments on such sensitive issues. She did not withdraw her remarks, but by giving this statement, she tried to slightly diffuse tensions. This was Takaichi's attempt to de-escalate the crisis in a way that she does not appear weak in front of China. At present, Japan and China are witnessing the worst diplomatic clash in recent years. We'll have to see how Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi navigates through this diplomatic storm.